shade. The loss we carry a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious. Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it. Because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
This is Willie Jones, and you've tuned in to another edition of the Working Woman Report. And we're live, and we just felt it very appropriate tonight to lead our conversation with the incredible Amanda Gorman, a poet laureate who just was amazing, gave us such energy and such celebration on yesterday's inauguration. So we cannot play that enough. She did such an amazing job, and it was one of the overwhelming themes from the inauguration, and tonight that we will launch our conversation around that particular topic. Tonight, I am so excited to have our own Senator Derek Simmons from the incredible Mississippi Delta with us, and he is a senator from District 12, Bolivar, Coahoma, and Washington counties. He is chair of the Municipalities Committee, the vice chair of Constitution, Corrections, Finance, Interstate and Federal Cooperation, Judiciary Division A, Judiciary Division B, Ports and Marine Resources, and Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Welcome, Senator, to the Women for Progress radio show.
Thank you for having me.
And I have the incredible one of my own, who is a member of Women for Progress, who's co-hosting with me tonight. Incredible in her own right, Miss Jackie Amos. So welcome to the show again. You might be one of our most visiting persons on our radio show, Jackie.
I enjoy the show. I do. I enjoy the education piece of it. So yes.
Well, great. Well, I think this is the first night, though, that you're sitting in chair as co-host with me. So that's something new for you tonight, I'm sure. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And Miss Amos is also National Democratic Committee woman. Did I say that right, Jackie? Okay, great.
That's fine.
Yes. And great. And not that we're having that conversation on it tonight, but she's also running for city council for the city of Jackson, and we'll talk about that on another occasion.
Right.
But she comes to the table with a lot of great conversation. Senator, we specifically asked you to join us tonight because we wanted to hear from our Democratic leadership here in the state of Mississippi. Of course, the events of this week was on a national stage, but we know it impacts us here locally, here in the state of Mississippi. Can everyone turn your is there volume down, or do you have your phones on? Turn your phones down. But we want to start tonight. I want to talk about initially. And I want to say too, and I think before we start our conversation, I have to give God glory for what He has done for us in this particular space of time where we are. Yesterday's inauguration was a commitment to excellence. It was God glory in such a huge way that we cannot start this conversation without giving Him all the glory and how faithful He has been for us. We've been going through a very challenging 4 years, and He's brought us out. I almost feel like we've been in the wilderness, and finally we're being brought to the light. So we're excited for that, and we thank God for all that He has done for us. But there's been some major themes around this week. Of course, we have our first VP, Kamala Harris, who has been breaking the ceilings this week. And then from my standpoint, I looked at the return to truth and honesty and unity. So, Senator, speak to what you were feeling this week, what this particular celebration meant, what this new leadership means to you, especially in your space in the political arena.
Well, Jones, again, thank you so much for having me. And this week really was a historic week. for the country to be moving in a new direction. With the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, it was very refreshing. It was very, it was almost a moment that we all have been waiting for, considering what we have had to deal with for the last 4 years. And so now we are in a position, Ms. Jones and certainly Jackie, to govern with love, not hate, to move the country in a direction where we can govern with unity and not division. We can govern with this new leadership with faith, not foolishness, with truth, not lies. And so whether you're black or white, Democrat or Republican, I would say Americans and certainly Mississippians will realize that the new administration will restore the democracy that we need in the highest office in the world. And also, we have to rebuild and reclaim our rightful place around the world, because our image around the world and our standing certainly they were in fact damaged with the last administration.
Jackie, what about your thoughts on it?
No, I have to agree with that. I think that as a whole, especially for Mississippians, I think I said this yesterday. There are folks that did not vote for this administration. You know, we get that. What we want to try to get them to understand is that this is going to be a unifying period for all of us, those folks included. That's the difference in the last administration. So I agree with the senator, but we do have our work cut out for us here at home. I try really hard not to speak on, national issues, because a lot of times folk get lost, and we have to make sure that they understand that we have to take care of home first before we can even be concerned with what the rest of the nation is doing. So I'm committed to making sure that we educate ourselves and we educate all Mississippians, not just blacks, not just whites, not just Democrats, not just Republicans. This is the time that the color scheme should be changing. And I say to purple, right? Because you're going to always have, not going to always agree, right? But you have to agree to disagree. And I think if we here in Mississippi, if we get this going and in this rhythm, I think it can happen, but we just have to be able to show people where the improvements are being made.
And I think when I think about this particular week in all of the activities, the overwhelming theme was unity. The overwhelming theme is that we are coming together. We know that there's still people unhappy about what went on, but I mean, when we had 3 former presidents that came together, and all of them didn't look like us. They came together and said that we stand with this particular administration, that we provide our support and all of our care to him and his efforts that he's doing, that it is a time for us to come together. And that was just amazing to be able to see. It was all about unity. It was all about moving forward. It was all about getting this ship right again. And as you said, Senator Simmons, when we think about our world standings, it is so crucial to repair the damage that have been done for the last 4 years. When we think about our men and women who are out there fighting all over the world, and a lot of it is based on us showing our strength as a country. It comes down to the lives of our men and women that are out there fighting across the world.
Yes, ma'am. And I agree, Ms. Jones, to see 3 former presidents stand together with one message of unity, people recognize that. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it actually transcended partisanship. It transcended race. And to hear the remarks that were made by Presidents Clinton, Obama, and Bush, about supporting this current administration and offering that support. It's the beginning of a new day in America. And I agree wholeheartedly about our men and women who are fighting for our rights and our freedoms. And to see three commanders in chief stand together to support this new commander in chief, which was a complete contrast to their predecessor or President Biden's predecessor, who not only did not want to agree or listen to our intelligence community, but basically mistreated men who basically wanted to protect us. I know you remember Colonel Vindman and how he was treated, but just being honest and being truthful about what he had experienced with this president. And so that's the type of leadership that we need going forward with President Biden. And it's really, really good to know that, or people were able to see, if you will, the contrast between those three presidents and President Biden's predecessor, who basically had his own outgoing event on the morning of one of the most important days in the founding of our country, which is a peaceful transfer of power. And so that contrast will also, I think, stand to bring people together and say, just like Jackie said, even though we may have disagreements on both sides of the aisle, it's a time where people can see that we are better together than apart.
Exactly. And I agree with Jackie that we have a lot of work to do. And but we have this week has set the stage for us to open our hearts and our minds to the work moving forward. And I think one thing that this pandemic has shown us too, that we are our brother's keeper. And it doesn't matter what color of skin that you are. What's amazing? It doesn't even matter what economic situation that you're in, because whether you were making $300,000 a year before the pandemic or you were making $20,000 a year, we are all now in the very same boat, and we have to row ourselves together for safety in order to get ourselves back on track. So I want to dig a little deeper into that particular theme about us moving forward and what we have to do moving forward, and the impact of not only this inauguration, but also the impact of this new leadership to the state of Mississippi and how it's going to impact our policy making here in the Mississippi, because we can't ignore it. Even though we all have our own Mississippi politics, what is happening right now and right now today is going to change things in the state of Mississippi. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the very first things that the president has addressed, and with his executive orders, which I think is overwhelming. Biden, he says, with the World Health Organization, Biden wants the U.S. to rejoin the World Health Organization. He is also eliminating the travel ban for Muslim countries. Biden plans to repeal the travel ban from many Muslim countries. Biden plans to reinstate the Dreamers program, which allows children of undocumented immigrants to remain in the U.S. And Biden plans to repeal the transgender military ban. He has also done some things that impact us right now in the midst of COVID around the student debt. Biden is asking the Education Department to extend a pause on federal student loan payments through at least September of this year. And housing foreclosures and evictions will be delayed until at least March of this year. Almost 12% of homeowners with mortgages are late on their payments, while 19% of renters are behind, according to the Census Bureau. And that's good news for the state of Mississippi.
It is.
And it's going to impact us in a very, very big way.
What I don't want us to do is what happened during President Obama's administration, all 8 years, honestly. For me, and this is ask you my personal and professional opinion. I feel as though we were excited, we were happy. This is what we'd always, dreamed of. We talked about, but we didn't work.
Yeah.
We were good right where we were because we had President Obama and we had an amazing First Lady, and we were happy and we were excited. And I think during those 8 years, I think we missed, we dropped the ball on a lot of things that would have actually helped, helped us actually move, into the next administration. And I honestly believe that we would have been better equipped to handle a Trump presidency or candidacy, if we had continued to build on the work. And so I'm hoping that, not hoping, we're not going to. With this administration, we're excited, yes. Are we going to stop working? No. Now we really, really work, right? So we have a lot of ground to cover. I'm excited about the Dreamers. If he can get that done, I talk with them. I know them. I work closely with MEDA, Immigrants' Rights Alliance. And there are a lot of students. There are a lot of young people that were born here, that are in college, that are in med school, that are in law school, and they have all been affected. And so we really and truly need to make sure we support them as we do our own, because they are our own. They were born here, raised here, they're grown here, and we need to be able to make sure that they can continue to work and live here and raise their families.
Senator, we were, while you were stepped away for a minute, we were talking about the first steps that the president has taken with his executive orders and the impact not only to the country but also to us here in the state of Mississippi.
And I think I came in, I lost connection. I think I heard Jackie talking about one of his executive actions regarding immigrants or the Dreamers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm reminded, of course, we honor the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King this week. And one of the things that I highlighted and I actually got a chance to reread was his letter in the Birmingham jail that he wrote on April the 16th, 1963. And one of the things that he said in that letter was anyone who lives inside the United States could never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds. And so it was almost like way in 63, Dr. King saw that we should treat all people within the boundaries of the United States as they are, in fact, Americans, because this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. And all of us basically have come from somewhere. And so we should not be treating anybody inside of our bounds differently or treating them as an outside agitator, as Dr. King called it. And so I agree with that one of that decision that President Biden took. I know he discontinued, I think, the travel ban.
Yes.
One of the travel ban was one of the executive orders. Right. I saw that Dr. Fauci had mentioned that we will be rejoining the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm trying to see what else I saw, Ms. Jones. I saw something else, but it was about 15 actions that he took.
Yeah, and also, of course, he's asked the Education Department to extend the extension on student loan payments, student loan debts. That's going to be huge for not only families but for young people. And of course, the expansion of the housing foreclosures and evictions. He wants to continue to extend that delay out to March of this year, which is going to help a lot of folks who are not even working and can't even afford mortgages at this particular time. So those particular things are going to be huge for us. And when we talk about the COVID-19 and the pandemic, he has issued this, 100 days of mask, which I think is going to be huge for the White House for the first time, I think, during this pandemic, to be able to say that we need to wear masks. That's going to be big. and I think it will
Yes.
help put definite curve on what's going on a national level around the pandemic and here in the state of Mississippi. But I want to, Senator, I want to move forward because I know we have a short period of time with you. Is that let's talk about what is the Democratic leadership here in the state of Mississippi. What are your priorities? We're getting into or already into a new legislative session. We're on the breast of looking for some more monies to come through. Tell us what the priorities that you all have set for 2021. What can we expect? How can we become a part of that effort?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Jones, the Senate Democratic Caucus, we laid out our priorities on January the 4th, 2021, and we made it clear that we want to think about the Mississippi of tomorrow. And it's important that we make decisions today to affect the Mississippi we want tomorrow. So we believe that Mississippians want good schools, they want good hospitals, they want good roads, and they want good paying jobs. So our broad legislative priorities include, certainly we want to continue our efforts in the COVID pandemic recovery assistance, whether it's helping our schools, whether it's helping put more money in the rental assistance program, whether it's to help our small businesses recover from the pandemic, whether it's to help our rural hospitals and all of our first responders in getting the vaccinations that they need, but also to make sure that our underserved communities in the state, in our rural areas, are also getting the help that they need regarding recovering from the devastating impact of COVID-19. Education. We continue to support full funding of education. All Senate Democrats supported a pay raise bill that we passed in the Senate today. We also supported that bill last year, but it actually stalled in the House after we were hit by COVID-19. We want to see programs to help teacher assistants, to help reduce the student to teacher ratio in the classrooms, so that education could be to improve the quality of education in the classroom. We also talked about healthcare. Healthcare is big in light of going on regarding COVID. We always supported expanding Medicaid. We are leaving 300,000 Mississippians behind for our failure to take advantage of the provision of the Affordable Care Act. And we want to see some movement on improving or providing additional access to health care in the state of Mississippi, even if it's not Medicaid expansion. If we could do some alternative to get health care to those Mississippians who need it. We believe that health care should not discriminate regarding cost or access. It should be available to all Mississippians. And we also believe and made it clear that we believe mental health is also part of healthcare. As we move to infrastructure, we talked about infrastructure. We believe Mississippians want good roads. How do we get there? Whether it's a combination of generating money through a gas tax, whether or not we should issue bonds to show the long-term commitment of the state of Mississippi regarding our deficient and crumbling roads and bridges. We know that if we have good roads and bridges and parts of the state that are underserved areas, it helps economic development into those areas of the state. Another thing that Ms. Jones, I just got, I guess, one or two more. We economic justice. We believe that it's important that we support Mississippi families, and we believe the way you support Mississippi families is by supporting Mississippi women. We believe in equal pay for equal work. And we actually, for the first time last year, we were able to get a bill passed in the Senate. We've been pushing for this for 7 or 8 years under the old lieutenant governor, now governor, who killed our bills every time we authored equal pay legislation. And under this new lieutenant governor, we were able to get a bill passed in the Senate, even though it was not taken up in the House. We were able to get a bill a bill passed, and we are very interested in pushing that through again this year. We also believe that all businesses should be able to be on a level playing field. A lot of the businesses that look like you and me, they don't get the opportunities for the $1 billion that we spend in public tax dollars every year. And so we believe that the public dollars and the public contracting we do as a state, that those businesses that have not traditionally had an opportunity to participate in that contracting and benefit from those dollars should have access to those dollars as well. As it relates to election reform, we believe in early voting. In light of what we saw in the 2020 election, we had a bill that we opposed because we wanted to do more for absentee voting. We believe voters in a pandemic and in a disaster should be able to vote safely. We oppose any efforts that would unnecessarily restrict the right to vote. We think that the right to vote should be expanded. It should be restored to those brothers and sisters who have served their sentences. And so we will be continuing our efforts to protect the right to vote, expand it and restore it. And lastly, criminal justice reform. Talked about that. Senate Democrats will continue to fight to reform our criminal justice system in Mississippi. We have the second highest incarceration rate in the country, and we need to pass laws that will create parole eligibility for our returning neighbors. That's what I like to call them. They are our returning neighbors, and we need to help not only rehabilitate them, but make sure we have the right programming as they re-enter society with dignity and respect. We want them to be good taxpayers, return to be productive citizens for their families and for our communities. Then we need to have the resources available to help them get a driver's license, to help them really re-enter society. If not, they will return to the correction system. And so those were some of the priorities that we talked about at the beginning of the session. And as we sponsor legislation and as legislation move through the legislative process, we will be fighting for these very, very important issues. And we believe that they are the right issues for good policy for all Mississippians.
You're exactly right, Senator. You hit on all the Pacific topics, and I want to just highlight two of them, and then I would like Jackie, you to talk about how we as a state need to engage with our leadership in the legislature. Healthcare. When we talk about what the deaths that our community has suffered during the pandemic, a lot of it has been because many of us that in communities of color already had serious health conditions that was not being from individuals who did not have access to good health care. That's one reason we are losing the numbers that we're losing in our community, and the numbers are as high as it is around COVID, that it is because many folks don't have access to good health care. So when we talk about pre-existing conditions, people who get COVID and actually die from it versus getting COVID and surviving it has to do with lack of health care. So that's a priority for us. And we must get that done. And I agree with you, Senator, in some form, if not Medicaid expansion, some version of it. And then criminal justice reform. We have to look at the workforce training dollars that is coming through this state and making sure that we put folks to work in higher paying jobs. Not only our returning citizens, but all of our citizens. We have to look at those opportunities and make sure that we're using workforce training dollars to really impact and make a dent in where we are, because that's how folks are going to survive. We need to not only get just jobs, we need folks having higher paid jobs with great benefits. So we need to definitely do that. And internet access, which seems to be a no-brainer for us. Internet access should be free on some basic level across our state, across our country. And we have got to get that done because we have moved all of our children to this internet world, to this digital world, and we are even operating from a business standpoint in the digital world. So we must do something major there, working with the vendors that are in our state to make sure that all of our children have access to internet, and that families that cannot afford it have it. It's so crucial to the education of our children. So Jackie, talk about how we as a community need to engage. Yes, we've showed up at the polls, of course. We were very successful there, but moving forward, we have to be at the table.
Before I go to that, I made a note. I wanted to speak just briefly on you were talking about internet access, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that those of us that live inside the big cities even thought about rural Mississippi, not having the same access as we had. I had people to tell me that they they tried to get on a call, or they wanted to get on on the program they wanted to hear, but the Wi-Fi is really bad out here. We don't really have it. If it's raining, we get nothing, that kind of stuff. But when it came down to the children needing it for school because they could go, that's when I think the rest of the state woke up and said, okay, we have to be able to educate our children. So I know, Senator Simmons, that you will be working, hard at trying to get that done and taken care of, because I believe that the world we knew back is the world of the past. We are entering another era. Virtual is going to be our way of life. We know that, right? So as much as we can, if you can just make sure that we're in on the conversations that are being had, because we can get families that will speak to it if you need, if needed, and and so on and so forth. But our children deserve better. They really and truly do. Yes. And so I mean, we're all committed. Everyone on this call is committed. So I know that others are, but that kind of stuck out with me, because over the course of the summer, it was like pulling teeth, trying to, speak with people virtually. And I mean, just simply had to do it by phone. They couldn't, by conference call. So I really want us to work on that. But as far as our duties, what we need to do in the state, number one, I have asked, and I constantly do this, if each one of us is responsible for our own little area, our own, if it's a street, right? If it can't be the entire neighborhood, if it's just your street, make sure that you have people that are moving in, communicate with them, ask them if they changed their voter registration, right? Where did they come from? When was the last time? Do they remember? What was the last election they voted in, right? And that'll tell you whether or not that person is a loyal, right? And you're going to have some people that are going to say, not since President Obama. I'm serious. You're going to have some folks that will say that, you'll have others that say, well, I voted for Senator Clinton, but she got the majority of the votes, but she still lost. So why do I vote? Education should be our mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. And so we need to educate. We need to make sure that each one of us is accountable for our own. Mm-hmm. Right? I've never asked you to take on more than they can handle. If you just do just your part, go and talk to your elected officials, call them on the phone, get online and watch some of the things that are happening in the meetings, in the legislature. You've got to be active. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks don't even know who their supervisor is. They don't know the difference between the supervisor or the city council, or they're just not into it. And I don't know whether or not they just had bad experiences, or they just don't care, or no one's knocked on their doors yet. Yeah. And so it's up to us, I think, to make sure that we do our part to get them engaged, give them events. Let's host some events. Let's host some education pieces. Let's do a voter registration tutorial. They want to know now. They really do. They just never really got out there. And so since everyone has been at home, they've been watching more CNN. They've been watching more MSNBC, that kind of stuff. So they have a lot of questions, right? And a lot of times, whatever's going on CNN, happening in Mississippi. Wow. And I think folks lose sight of that. That's why I said we need to make sure it matters what happens in the other states. It does, but not more than here.
Now, Senator, before we wrap up with you, I want you to tell us how best to engage with you and the rest of the leadership. What is the most responsive ways that we can engage? Of course, we want to tune in to the live sessions at the Capitol that's available, but what is the best ways for us to link hands and be as impactful as we can through this legislative session?
Well, but before COVID, Ms. Jones, I always said the voice in the walls of the Capitol are the real voices. They are the voices that have the greater impact. Because a lot of times your legislators will get inside of this building and they'll forget who they represent. They're actually getting committee rooms. They'll actually work with leadership. And a lot of times before a law would be passed and it may not have been as progressive or as inclusive as some of your constituents would have wanted to be. And a lot of times it's because they were left out. And I'm a grassroots guy. I'm a guy that's on the ground. I'm a guy that realizes that the most input that you have, the better product you will deliver. And so I would say, certainly before COVID, it was always on every major issue. I would always encourage people in my district to come to the Capitol and talk to not only me, but talk to the representatives that represent the Delta on the House side, and on those issues that really care about, like whether they're education, whether they're healthcare, to people that don't look like you. If I care about expanding Medicaid, don't spend your time talking to me about expanding Medicaid. If I care about funding our schools and providing internet access for our children who do not have internet access to help with the delivery of education, don't spend your time talking to a representative or a senator who does not look like you, and that you could help get them to see that you are a real person who are dealing with this issue, and it's important to get their support as we try to make Mississippi better. But since we're in COVID, the question is, how do you do that now? You can call. Certainly, I agree, Ms. Jones, participate via the live stream. But call, pick up the phone and call. Send an email. You'll be amazed on how many members will read their emails. But it's not getting them from, or a person like Jackie said may not be engaged for whatever reason. They feel like, well, my calling or my sending an email doesn't matter. It really does. I mean, I'd rather do it and don't get a result than not doing it at all, because you never know the result you would have gotten. So as much engagement as possible, as much interaction in the circumstances that you can have with the members of the legislature, the better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And look, we got to get back to the old letter writing. I tell you, if you want to make an impact, you want to get in front, you want to impress somebody, you send them a letter. Because there ain't many folks sending letters these days. You take the time to write a letter, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, drop it off at the mail. Folks know you're serious, and you're passionate about what you're concerned about. So, and then we have time to do letter writing now. I mean, many of us, we have time to do that. So, and of course, like you said, to definitely email. I want folks also to stay tuned to Women for Progress. I want you to reach out to us and become part of our database so you can keep informed on the many engagements that we're going to be doing in 2021. Women for Progress, the organization, and all of its membership is going to be, we'll have various forums. We're going to have all types of conversations and engagement. And this is an interactive process. I always tell folks, Women for Progress Radio, the forums that we do, it's not just about us. We do this because of our community and because of each other and our families. So we want you to reach out to us when we have an event, to become a part of it, to share it, find out how you can engage, and then how you can follow up beyond that engagement. I want to say right now, we're very excited. We've already have a date for our first mayoral debate, which is going to be March 4th at 6 p.m. And it might be a combination of virtual and live. We have to see what the numbers are going to do around the pandemic. But but we have a lot of races that are on the table this year. And we want to start early. So March 4th, 6 p.m. I want you all to go ahead and put it in your calendars. We are in Women for Progress in partnership with League of Women Voters, Jackson Free Press, and the Jackson Advocate are coming together for the power of the women vote. The power of the women vote by launching this first mayoral debate for the city of Jackson. So stay tuned, because we're going to be engaged, and we want you to engage with us. And we want to make sure that our voices are heard, and we want to make good decisions when we show up at the poll. So that's March 4th at 6 p.m. So mark your calendars for that, the first City of Jackson mayoral debate that we have set up for the power of the women vote. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of more women's organizations that's going to come and partner with us. So it's going to be a powerful engagement to not only select the person, in that particular mayoral race, but also to talk about the issues that impact the city of Jackson. So make sure you stay tuned on that. Senator, this has been awesome. And we know that this is not only your first visit with us for the 2021 year. We're going to have a whole lot of conversations. We hope you continue to work with us on keeping our citizens informed in the state of Mississippi. And a pat on the back for your long history of political and public service engagement. You've just been awesome. And we thank you so much. We invite folks to go to your website, DerrickSimmons.com, and his entire bio of all the incredible things that he has done and all the recognitions that he has gotten. And also, we talked earlier about, I saw your bio and I said, has this changed any? You said, yes, we've gone from 1 child to 2 children now. So, so you have expanded your team. So congratulations to you and your wife, Ms. Flowers, on that.
Yes, ma'am. And as a conclude, I just want to say thank you for all the work you do in this entire state of Mississippi, advocating on behalf of women, but just advocating on behalf of all of our communities on trying to do the right thing, keeping our communities engaged, and trying to also help in any way that you can that we have good policy in the state of Mississippi for all of her citizens. And if I had to give any closing remarks, I would like to end with Amanda that you played at the beginning of the call, and some things that I jotted down from her amazing delivery and her amazing words on yesterday is that to all of your listeners out there to please stay engaged. And as she said, quiet is not always peace. Just is, it's not always justice. And when we form, we should not just be forming a union to just be perfect. We should be forming a union with purpose. And so as the Women for Progress continues all of its invaluable work, I really appreciate that you always have worked with purpose. And thank you for having me. I look forward to continuing to work this. And I will come anytime you invite me, Ms. Jones.
Okay, I'm recording that, Senator. Okay, thank you so much.
He's gonna have to come back because I have a laundry list of questions.
Yeah. We'll
be talking to you
Jackie,
soon.
you know I come back.
I have a laundry list right here, just waiting. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Senator.
Okay.
We're gonna let you back out and start our second part of our conversation. Jackie, you're gonna stay with me for part two.
Yes, I will.
So good evening, Senator. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Hello. We have our guest for our second hour, at least one of our guests. We have Dr. Sandra Carr Melvin, who is CEO and founder of the Institute for the Advancement of Minority Health. And I think Dr. Erica Thompson is going to be joining us too. But while we're waiting for her to come on, Dr. Melvin, tell us about the Institute for Advancement of Minority Health. You all have been doing some powerful work in this state. So tell us about that organization that you founded and its purpose and mission.
Well, thank you for having me, Ms. Jones. And whenever you all ask me to come, I have to come. And so I'm pleased to get on your show today just to talk a little bit about the Institute and address any public health issues that you may have this evening. The Institute was founded in 2019. And I founded the Institute after 20 years of working in public health as an epidemiologist and realizing that many of our public health interventions are created without the real voice of the community as part of it. So one of the founding principles of the work that we do at the Institute is to make sure that we include the community's voice in the planning of the intervention, in the implementation, and then also in the dissemination. People in the community have to buy into the idea before they can accept it and actually implement it within their communities. And the only way to do that is to hear their voice. And we also take into account the health equity aspect of anything that we do. Is that resource going to be accessible? If you propose a solution and the community can't access it, then you're still not going to make an impact. So those are that's the foundation of the work that we do here in Mississippi, and we work within all 82 counties. And I would be remiss if I didn't also include that I serve as the health chair for the Mississippi State Conference of the NAACP. So we also work closely with the branches to identify some of the solutions, and we partner with the NAACP to try to implement some of the solutions for the community.
You do some powerful work and very impactful work, Dr. Melvin. And that's one of the reasons we have you on this conversation today. We're talking about how this vaccine, the update and status on where we are in communities of color. So my first question I want to start with, how are we doing on the numbers? It remains a challenge statewide for individuals to get the vaccine, to get appointments. How are we doing in communities of color, and what are some of the obstacles to us getting a little bit better success around the vaccine and the shots?
Well, I am, unfortunately, just to be quite honest, in terms of our community, minority communities, we are not doing well as it relates to uptake of the vaccine at this point. Of the vaccines that have been given, 70% have been given to white Mississippians, and only 15% have been given to Black Mississippians here in the state. And I think you alluded to a lot of what the issue was during your conversation with Senator Simmons. A lot of it has to do with vaccine hesitancy. People do not trust the healthcare system. And that combined with the previous administration's information or lack thereof, it serves to increase people's hesitancy to partake in the vaccine. What I will say is, and I want to make sure that anything that I advocate for, I believe in. I actually had my first dose of the vaccine today. And I will say that as proof that we really need to think about the decisions we make, because when it was first released, I wasn't an advocate, or at least I wouldn't promote it. But after reading the literature, after finding out more about it, and also after looking at some of the numbers, it caused me to make some different decisions about how I would or would not promote. I think that the first thing we need to do when becoming involved in anything is really read the literature. And I want people to also understand that this vaccine was also developed with the help of an African American woman. And so what we need to understand, what my fear is that our lack of trust, which is justified. We've had a history in this country of misusing African Americans in scientific experiments, and so it's justified. But what I don't want to happen is for us to let our fear cause us to also become another disparity as it relates to this COVID-19 in a worse way now that there is a proposed cure or at least some sort of treatment for it. And I will also say that I'm not a physician, but I have read everything as an epidemiologist about the clinical trials. And I will say that one of the things that we need to just think about is that a lot of the solutions for African Americans are not the same for white. So what we need to think about is participation in clinical trials means that you get the best information for your community. What works in one community may not work for us. So we just need to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I think not enough of us have stepped forward to try to get appointments, to find out more information about, make a decision. When I'm talking to people, they're still telling me that they're on the fence. And I know for me, I'm checking that website every day to make appointments. I'm checking it every single day. As soon as I creep in and sometimes at midnight when I'm up, I'll go to the site just hoping that they put some new slots out there that maybe I would catch them at midnight. Maybe they release them at midnight and at 12:01 a.m. that'll be available. So I'm checking it around the clock to try to get engaged. I've reached out to my doctor's office and I'm waiting for information on when that happens. I hear that next week that possibly that they will be putting doses out to some of the pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens. So tell us how the best way to get engaged, those of us who are already waiting in line, how can we access it? Is it we just got to wait in line and wait till these doors open for appointments? Or there's some other places I'm willing to drive to Greenwood, Greenville, Hattiesburg, wherever in the state of Mississippi that they got some slots open. I will go and get in line, and I think many other people will too. So what's the best way to get in line and get done?
So I will tell you that part of the issue is not the people wanting to get it, or the clinics or the healthcare providers not wanting to give it. The biggest issue is the rollout right now. And I heard another portion of your show where you were talking about some of the executive orders that have been signed. And I think that with the passage of those orders, we'll see a more efficient rollout of the vaccine. The problem is there's a limited amount of the vaccine and everybody wants it right now. So by the time you see the slot, it's gone because someone else has it. The best thing to do at this point is, like I said, monitor it, but get on a waiting list. If you're able to sign up, and most clinics will put you on that list and then call you once they have the vaccine. So by all means, if you're interested in getting it, go to the Mississippi State Health Department's website and make sure you get on that list, as well as look for drive-through spots where you may be able to get the vaccine. For me, I think the best way and more efficient way for people to do it is to call their community health centers, MEAs, people that are giving the vaccines, and get on that list so that they can call you once it's available, because they're going as soon as they release them. But the biggest thing is the supply is not enough to meet the demand right now. So there's really nothing that you can do right now to make it faster. It's just making sure that you're on that list when it is available.
And stay alert and stay ready. Share information with our families and friends so that those who are on the fence, they have not made a decision one way or the other, make sure we're sharing that information out to our friends, our loved ones, and associates. And I'm going to say, too, I think the other, and this is a topic we got to talk about, because I think it's now becoming, it's going to be a big deal for us, is employers. We have a lot of folks who have gone back to work and employers who have opened up their doors. We have employers that have not shut their doors, but we have people that are still coming to work. Some of them working from home, but some of them are still working in the offices. And I tell you, if many of our businesses is going to be sustainable, I know for me as an employer, I'm not making it a mandate now, but when it becomes available, widely available, it is going to be a requirement of every single employee in my building. And I know many companies right now, many employers are feeling very challenged right now with that. Thinking about how they're going to make this decision. But if businesses is going to be long-term sustainable, so they can keep their customers and their employees safe, and that they can continue to thrive in this very challenging time for businesses, I think that's going to be a big deal for folks. And Dr. Melvin, what are the guidelines? Is there any guidelines around that? Of course, I'm hearing that employers have a right to be able to do that.
Well, I have not seen any guidelines yet released about an employer being able to make someone take the vaccine. I do know that it's not unheard of. In most healthcare facilities, if employees are going to be coming into contact with certain things like hepatitis, things like that, they do require their employees to take vaccines for hepatitis because that's a risk that they are going to run into. And so, but what I will say is that Mississippi is an at-will state. And so if an employer adopts a policy for you to have to take that vaccine, then I would think that at some point there's going to have to be some consideration that if the employer has that policy, then they can request or require for their employees to take it, particularly if they're working in situations where they are more prone to come into contact with COVID. Especially like healthcare facilities and places like that, they can require it because that's a known risk for someone working in that industry.
And I'm going to say to employers that are listening out there, if you have people who are working for you, to right now start sharing good information with them. Dr. Melvin talked about the research and the brochures and all of that information that's out there readily available. Like many of us did not know an African American woman was part of this some of these studies. All of this information we need to right now as employers start sharing it, and you need to share it in a very constructive way. You don't need to just drop it on somebody's table in hopes that they're going to pick it up. You need to have a meeting and session and talk about the impact of this to your business, the impact to their income, their ability to continue to work. You got to connect the dots with people, and sometimes when you connect the dots with people, it's that one thing that would say, well, I didn't think about that I was going to take the vaccine before, but it's not just about me, and let me go ahead and find out what I need to find out so I can make some good decisions for myself and all those people around me.
I do want to just say one thing. I think that the way to get people to take the vaccine is to recognize issues and address them. The Institute is actually hosting focus groups so that we can find out the barriers to people taking the vaccine or the concerns that they have, so that we can get that information to the right people, so that we can know what are the barriers. Is it access to care? Is it they can't get on the list? Is it I mistrust the healthcare system, and so I'm not going to give it? I don't trust the vaccine. I'm not enough to tell someone to take the vaccine without acknowledging their issues or the reasons that they don't want to do it, because there is a history there of African Americans and vaccinations and research. And so we have to acknowledge that if we're going to try to get people to take it. So even though an employer might have the right to do that, people still should have some sort of autonomy in making that kind of a decision as well.
Yes.
Dr. Melvin.
Yes.
Dr. Melvin, I've got a laundry list of texts from classmates and friends asking if you can give us the order of distribution, because some of them said that they've been trying to get their parents on a list, for the vaccine, but they can't ever get them in.
Well, if their parents are, I believe, 65 or older, they should be able to be on the list because they were in the first phase along with healthcare providers. But what they ended up doing to try to get more of the vaccines out, they expanded that. Well, at first it was people 75, but they reduced that to make sure that people 65 and older could get on that list, and people with pre-existing conditions as well as healthcare providers. So they were in that phase too. And so now what's happening is because they opened that list up and it's not just healthcare providers and people 75 and older, you have more people that are, and pre-existing conditions, you have more people that are eligible now, and they're getting those slots. So it's not, and when you're saying that they're saying they can't get on the list, when they're talking to the providers, they're not putting them on the list, or they're telling them to call back?
Yeah, they have to continue to call back. Let me see.
No, anytime that I've asked about that for someone, they have asked for the person's name and phone number so that they can let them know once they came in. And so maybe that may not be the provider for them if they're not willing to add them to the list to make sure that they get it, because you shouldn't have to keep calling back. If you're in that category of people who are eligible, they should be keeping a list so that they can reach out. The other thing I think that is beginning to happen is they're going to start doing some vaccine distribution centers to kind of maybe open it up or make it easier to get people vaccinated. But the supply has to increase before we'll even be able to get that vaccine out the way it needs to be.
And I think many of us are saying, or just using the link where we're trying to just make our own appointment, and we're not. I think what I hear you saying, Dr. Melvin, we need to make that dial that 800 number and hopefully get on a list from there. Jackie,
right, or the clinic. Like if the clinic has it, and if they're advertising that they're giving it, call that clinic directly and ask them, do they have the vaccine or do they have any available? And usually the person will then ask you, tell you maybe they don't, but they'll get some information from you so that they can put you on the list to be called when it's time, when they get the next shipment in.
Jackie, you had another question?
Well, I was listening late last night, early this morning. Did the outgoing president didn't have a plan? They thought they had a plan. They were supposed to have had a plan, but apparently they didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. How has that affected? Because obviously, if you're waiting for the rollout on instructions, and directions, and you never get them, that can't be good. That can't be good for anyone.
Well, of course, it will serve to delay us even further in getting the vaccine out. I mean, if you come to work the first day thinking that you have a plan and then you have to start from scratch, of course, that's going to put you back some more. The thing that I will say is that this is not the first time we've been affected by an epidemic. Now, it's a pandemic now, but there is a playbook that was left by the Obama administration. And because Joe Biden was the vice president, he's not in as big of a disadvantage as someone who did not have access to that. So he will be able to go back, and he's actually done some things, actually implemented a COVID-19 coordinator that will report directly to him. And what that person will be responsible for is working with state agencies and coordinating efforts between them and the federal government to try to improve the efficiency of the rollout. He's also made it so that companies will be able to fill in the gaps if we're not getting enough of something, syringes or anything that we need to be able to vaccinate people quickly. He's also opened it up so that we can get more of the products that we need created faster. So I think that what we were missing is a coordinated response. We were letting each state do whatever they wanted to do to get it out instead of having a master plan to make sure everyone gets it. We didn't even know who we should send it to. In the beginning, there were issues about who should get it first. And then it was, how is each state going to do it, or who should get it in each state? And so now I think that with the implementation of some of these things, they'll be able to have a more effective plan for making sure that the vaccine rolls out, that we have the supplies that we need to roll it out, and that we're able to produce the number of vaccines that we need to make sure people get vaccinated.
Yeah, and also now that we're jumping in and rejoining the World Health Organization, I think also collectively worldwide, that's going to make a huge difference also. I think that's going to be major for us.
That's right. Because we need everyone's help.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to wrap up our conversation tonight by giving both of you all the final words on your thoughts and on the activities this week. We are both African American women, and I know we were strutting proud yesterday with all the events that was going on, not only with the whole new leadership, but also Ms. Kamala Harris, who is just wonderful, and then our former First Lady, who just made us so proud. Also, it was great to see her back on stage again. So our hearts had to be warm. So I'll let you all give your final thoughts on this week's activities.
Well, I'll just say that much like when I saw President Obama inaugurated, I felt a sense of pride that we had finally elected the first African American, Southeastern Asian woman into the role of vice president. I know that she's a very capable woman, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything that this administration does. I'm hopeful because I think that for at least a year since COVID-19, we've been a society that just has really been in a standstill. And so just being able to see the plans unfold and see it happen in a coordinated way gives me hope that in a couple of months, we will still have COVID. It's here now. Mm-hmm. But I think that we will get back to some semblance of being able to go to brunch with our girlfriends when we want to, our kids being able to go to college. I have a daughter that started her first year in college, and it's been, stressful because we are worried about COVID, but we also want her to get the experience of college. And so people will be able to send their kids back to school, and kids will be able to learn in the environment that they learn in best, because all of us are parents and we do this every day, but none of us are teachers. Mm-hmm. Now we have to give just due to teachers for what they do every day. And so our kids need that influence. So I think that I'm hopeful for what we're going to see in the next couple of months. And I'm definitely looking forward to doing my part in the community to make sure that people have the right information so that they can make the right decisions about whether or not they decide to get vaccinated. I think no matter what your decision is, as long as you have the right information, I'm okay with whatever that decision is. I just want to make sure that our communities get the same accurate information that everyone else gets, and that they have access to whatever they need to remain healthy.
Right. Jackie?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, so yes, yesterday, all of it has been amazing since the election, right? Since we called it. But my hope is that as Mississippians, we see how the rest of the world is living, how they are moving, how they're improving, education-wise, health-wise. COVID-19, the information that's out there, I think she's right. I think that because we have been, we've been used as guinea pigs, and that's kind of what is in our minds. I have conversations with people and they ask me, are you going to take it? Yes, I am, because my mother's 78 years old and she has a lot of underlying, now she started dialysis, so yes, of course I am, because I have to protect her, right? But I think that looking at the scene yesterday and going to sleep, waking up, going, okay, so every day now is like, what do I do today, right? Yeah. So where do I start? Well, I'm going to always go back to education. I think we need to educate our folks on the electoral process. I think we need to educate our people with all of the health guidelines. I've tried to tell people, it's only my opinion, but I think that in the beginning, when so many African Americans were testing positive, those were folks that were caregivers. We are caregivers. We go to the grocery store, Black women, right? We go to the grocery store. We go to the doctor. We take to the doctor. We go to the pharmacy. We are caregivers. And so I think that we just didn't have the luxury of staying at home, right? We stay at home. We take care of mom and dad. We take care of our aunts. We have responsibilities. We were raised that way. And so we were out. Yes, masks covered, everything. But as long as you're in contact, with other people out, in the outside world, then you always run that risk. So I think we need to be vaccinated, but that's just, that's what I'm going to do, right? But I'm excited. I'm excited because there's some new blood, the strength and the power behind our administration that they're going to give us, that they're going to, I think is going to help us all around. We just have to be patient and continue to do our part.
Yeah. Well, I think yesterday spoke truth over ignorance. I think it speaks to transparency. I think I heard one person who attended the event that said that what she was most touched by and she felt so hopeful by was accountability. She said, when you don't have accountability in the highest office in the country, she said, that's a problem. That's a problem that we all should be concerned about. And so what we saw yesterday and what we heard from our new president is that he's going to provide some accountability. I also think the thing was overwhelmingly unity. We know that we're in this thing together now. And it doesn't matter those who might be still upset about the race. Look, folks went to the polls and they voted. And we didn't, and beyond all of the falsehoods and false news about a steal and all of that stuff, folks showed up at the poll. Democracy worked, and democracy spoke, and people spoke and said, "This is what I want. This is what I feel that we are in a time to where we have got to get this thing back on track." Us as a society, we cannot allow the world to see us in this state. So people spoke loudly. And so we'll get over it. Those who look, and we are happy for everybody who voted for whatever your opinion is, one way or the other, whether it be Democrat or Republican. I don't even talk that way anymore. I don't even want to hear somebody tell me about their Republican or their Democrat or whatever. We are people together. And if we're going to get this thing moving, if we're going to take care of ourselves, if we're going to make a change, we have got to do it together. Whether you're black, white, Republican, Democrat, or whatever, we just got to work and do common sense. We got to do what's best for all of us. If you have children, and I have children, we both want the same for our children. We want success for our children. We want good neighborhoods for our children. We want good education for our children. We want our businesses to thrive. We want us as women to thrive. We want all of those things, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. People want a good quality of life. So we're just going to have to move forward. We have to get over it, open up our hearts and minds to what we have to do. We have all, as Miss Amos said throughout this conversation today, we got to show up. We got to show up at every table. We got to show up at events. We got to send emails. We got to write letters. We got to make phone calls. We got to let our voice be heard. We can't be shy. We got to stand up in our pulpits. We got to share with our mission people. We are women's groups at churches. Women have got to come together like we've never come together before. And we're going to be the catalyst for this thing. Women are going to be the catalyst for this thing. And we have somebody in number 2 person in the highest office that tells us that that's so. So that's what we got to do. We are so hopeful. We are so grateful. We are so thankful for the good Lord for giving us and doing for us and caring for us and being with us and being faithful and showing his glory for us. And we're going to do this thing. We have so much hope and so much to look forward to. And I want to say finally, those of you who are still going through, and we're all going through some stuff, even when you think, hey, I think I see a little light at the end of the tunnel, and you still think you need some help, don't stop calling on people. You got to reach out to folks and tell folks that you need help. You got to reach out for help and not be embarrassed or shame or whatever about it. Even if you just need somebody to sit and talk with you, you need to do that. Okay, so we need to care for ourselves, be proactive in ourselves. It's tough times ahead, but we can do it. We can do it, and I'm telling you, I am so excited. I am so excited for Women for Progress. I'm so excited for Mississippi. I am so excited for women. I'm so excited for our children. our children got some challenges ahead, but we're going to do it. We just got to not give up. We just got to keep getting it done every day. And it's all going to work out at the end. It's going to work out for our benefit. And believe me, at this time next year, we're going to be shouting and having a good time and hugging on each other, hopefully, in some fashion. So thank you, everyone, for being part of this conversation tonight. Jacqueline, yes. Amos, thank you so much for co-hosting.
Thanks for having me.
You've been amazing. You've been amazing.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's fun.
Thank you, Dr. Melvin, for always coming when we call on you. And thank you, and a big pat on the back for all the amazing work that you're doing at the Institute for Advancement of Minority Health. Will you share with people how they can connect with you in your work?
Sure, and thank you for having me. You can contact me via email at smelvin, MELVIN, at advancingminorityhealth.org, or you can call me if you prefer to call me at 601-933-0378.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I want to remind folks again that you can reach out to us on our website at womenforprogress.net. It's our organizational website. womenforprogressradio.com. If you got a topic you want us to talk about, please reach out to our executive producer, Ms. Juanita Brown, who does an amazing job on this program. The Women for Progress Radio Network has been around for over 10 years, and she has been the executive producer for this network for those 10 years, and we are so grateful for her innovative commitment to this organization. womenforprogressradio.com, womenforprogress.net. You can email us at mail, M-A-I-L, at womenforprogress.net, or give us a call at 601-259-6770. We're always looking for incredible women that are willing to give up their time, their resources, to this organization through community service. So reach out to us if you're interested in linking hands with us. Women-owned businesses, we're doing some wonderful things to support and empower and expand the capacity to women-owned businesses in 2021. So if you own a business or you're an entrepreneur, please reach out to us. Mail at womenforprogress.net, 601-259-6770, and be part of the effort. This has been the Working Woman Report, brought to you by the Women for Progress Radio Network, and thank you so much for tuning in. And I think what we'll leave on tonight, Miss Amos, is the broadcast that we started with, the incredible Amanda Gorman, who, so I think we'll do that one more time in leaving tonight and let her inspire us a little bit more, okay?
Repeating, yes.
Okay.
We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one.
Amanda Gorman made history on Wednesday as the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history.
And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose.
The 22-year-old read her own poem titled The Hill We Climb at the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division.
The Los Angeles native documented the moments leading up to her time at the mic on Instagram.
Say hey, Mom. The United States Senate, the Honorable Dr. Barry C. Black, Secretary of the Chair of the Board of Governors.
That's Amanda rehearsing on Tuesday, having a moment of reflection to take it all in. Oh, and that's a pic with her mom and the Obamas. She admitted the whole meeting had her deceased. She also posed with Hillary and Bill Clinton, calling it the selfie of her year.
We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace.
Amanda looked straight fire, rocking a yellow blazer and gold hoop earrings. Fun fact, Oprah Magazine revealed those were a gift from Oprah people. Yes, Oprah freaking Winfrey.
I'm proud of her for having the courage to say it.
Lady O sent Amanda those gold hoops, which feature hanging diamonds and a bird cage. A nod to Dr. Maya Angelou, who, of course, wrote the book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and spoke at the 1993 inauguration of former President Bill Clinton.